Hi everyone, this is Devleena, welcoming you all once again to an exciting episode of Iconic Ads with Devleena and Saurabh. And I have my expert co-host with me, Mr. Saurabh Bajaj. Hi Saurabh, welcome here once again.
Hi.
Hi. And I am excited to announce our guest for today, Mr. Chandan Jha, who is the managing partner and founder at Simple Tribe. Welcome once again, Chandan, to Icons Behind Brands.
Hi,
Chandan.
And today, once again, we have you and one more new campaign, a new day, new brand.
सूरज की मटकी ओए बारिश का रेला बल्ला घुमई के ओए नहले पे दहला अम्बरेला जोर लगा के अम्बरेला ऐशा अम्बरेला खींच के अम्बरेला तान दो धूप है नीम बारिश कड़वा करेला ओ धूप है नीम बारिश करेला मीठी चूरी सा काटने चला अम्बरेला 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 अम्बरेला
जो बाहरी दीवारों पे नेरोलैक एक्सेल नहीं लगाएंगे उन्हें कुछ तो लगाना पड़ेगा और एक्सेल वाले घर उनके लिए तो बस पेंट ही काफी है कांसाई की जापानीज टेक्नोलॉजी से बना एक्सेल
Superb. So,
What do you think about the use of Shah Rukh Khan in this?
I don't know, I quite like it actually.
Brand?
And the fact that, and very natural, the way he is also standing there with an umbrella, looking at what's happening. I quite liked it personally.
yes, good. Right.
Actually, I worked with him for almost 5 years on Nerolac.
Wow.
So, I
You have
really
any
love
plan?
it.
I mean, if I'm thinking, think big.
So it's amazing that उस समय हम कुछ ऐसा रिकॉर्ड कर रहे थे. I don't remember the exact line now, but it was more to the tune of saying Excel वाले घर versus Nerolac Excel वाले घर, right? He said यार तुम एक Nerolac Excel वाले घर लेके रख लो, ठीक है? ये बोर्ड मीटिंग्स में पता नहीं क्या होता है, कोई ना कोई बोले तुम्हें करना पड़ेगा. Okay, the script as approved did not have Nerolac Excel वाले घर, right? Because we said Nerolac last में तो भूल ही रहे ना. तो आपको फिर से मतलब कितनी बार आपको Nerolac करना है इसमें?
It will fight between brand and creative.
Yeah, so you should take it and keep because the commercial will get stuck because you'll not have that as a take.
Before we proceed, if you let us know about your association with Nerolac at that time, how much your involvement was there with that particular brand ad, and your responsibility about your team, something if you just tell us so we can get something to visualize.
Business heads at business. Okay. Like I said, so I used to handle the kitty of brands. And within that, I had Ambuja, I had Nerolac, I had HDFC Mutual Funds and Bharti AXA and many others. Okay. So I had a fairly large team managing all these brands. So that's where it was. Nerolac was very close to my heart, right? Because it was the first business that I kind of took on when I got this place. So one of the bigger businesses that we worked on while there was a lot of attention that this brand got. The entire senior management in that sense. So yeah, it was a very Nerolac this is actually was one of the oldest businesses as well. Even when it used to be Ambience, right? So there was a very long association with the brand.
So the idea is very prominent, using the umbrella and how, you are showing that the particular product's benefit.
Yeah, or maybe we can go back to the business problem. It was really, the setup for the business problem in this particular case.
There were two clear ranges, right? So there was an interior range and there was an exterior range of paints. Okay. There are two different seasons in which people look at either or, right? So when it is the festive season when people are coming in, Diwali hai, chahe wo shadi ka season ho ya whatever. In those kind of places, then it was always about the interior paints, right? Because you're greeting people inside the house, or you're trying to show off the house to many people. To that extent, it was also about your own expressions in it, right? And these are the various things that most paint companies anyways do. So there was always this thing of having high awareness, and awareness translated to sales. in many ways, right? So every year it was a matter of putting out new expressions out there. It was one of those that every year you have to do a campaign for exterior paints, you have to do a campaign for interior paints at two different points in the year, right? Mm-hmm. Most exterior paints usually happen around the summers or just after the rains, depending on which part of the country you're really talking about. So that was more a media in terms of when and where it gets aired. Excel was competing straight outright with Asian paints in that sense, right? And the question was always about gaining better top of mind recall.
So tell me, this whole category of exterior paints versus interior paints, can you just give us a little bit of an idea of how the landscape is? Are these the two broad categories? Are there some other categories? How is the whole paint industry?
There are multiples actually. So you can segment this into pricing from premium all the way till the mass segments in that sense, right? Then it's also about applications. Where are you going to be applying? So obviously the big volumes come from exterior and interior paints per se, but they're also into other surfaces, right? So when it comes to grills, when it comes to specific, whatever appliances or everything else, right? So for example, Nerolac is very big in the industrial paint segment. So what you're not aware of is possibly a refrigerator being painted by Nerolac. And that's a segment that they don't advertise here because it's largely B2B and it's nobody really repaints a fridge in that sense. There are many other surfaces such that you keep painting within the house. It's just that there are lots of brands and lots of things that appear out there. But these are the two things that actually drive brand salience.
Cool. Now, so just tell us, what is the key fundamental difference between interior paints versus exterior paints? Because this ad is clearly one about an exterior paint, but what is fundamentally the product difference, if any?
So, at a fundamental level, obviously the interior paints don't see as much weathering as compared to exteriors. Exteriors is like always facing the vagaries of, right? Whether it's a sun, whether it's the rains, and then if some of the rainwater stays over or something happens, then have all those algae left behind and all that. And the third one really is in terms of bird droppings, right? Which don't get cleaned so often. So yeah, so that's one of the differences, right? Interiors don't get as dirty by the weather as much as people themselves, right? In interiors, the biggest worries is oily hands, dirty hands, touching the surfaces which kind of, spoil your house. Actually, in the interior paint segment, you will notice, I also Berger paints karta tha. Okay, of these kids going around and, spoiling the walls or, painting on it or writing on it or whatever, right? And they did the whole thing of wet cloth and wipe it off and you can clean it up. So durability becomes a code in the exterior paint format, and in the interiors, of course, it's about beauty and it's about decor and it's looks nice, expresses my feelings about how I need to look at my house and how the house to make me feel. Right?
Yeah. So I think the interior ones are more like, for example, Mera Wala Pink or Mera Wala Blue, and then that whole Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai. I think both of these are more the pride of the owner for the interior paint. The story is more of an extension of myself. But yeah. I think weathering and durability is far more the exterior paint passion point.
Absolutely. So when you actually look at what Asian paints did, or what Ogilvy did with Asian paints, which was that vast Sunil Babu, right? जो सालों साल निकल जाते हैं पर घर वैसे का वैसा ही लगता है, right? और for that matter, Nawab Saab का where they have those hundreds of horses running towards Nawab Saab is covered in dust, but Bangla तो अभी भी चमकते हैं. So that the whole category codes are currently the idea of durability, right? Always on. The
other things I found really interesting in the ad is that you have these two different umbrella scenarios. One for sunlight, other for rain.
So ironically, yes, that is how it was written for. We said that let's look at two themes of weather in terms of this country, right? So we said let's look at North India. North India, let's go to somewhere in Rajasthan, which is the sunniest or the hottest place. We could have equally gone to Andhra, but no, it's just the dry aridness which gave you a different perspective to what happens there. Plus, it's amazing that Kerala is the biggest exterior paints markets in our country.
Kerala, is it?
Yeah, because actually it's white. More than any other color, white as an exterior paint in Kerala is one of the biggest markets of country. So there was a specific ad we made for Twitter, so it's just about white.
Okay.
Nothing else. But yeah, so that's how we picked up these two.
And was there ever a thought of having two different ads? One ad for just rain, the other ad for sunlight, or were you always thinking of one collage where both of them are interspersed?
Actually, we planned on editing it later. There are shorter edits which are just sun and just rain. Ironically, when we were trying to shoot it, that was the idea. But we landed in Jodhpur, yeah. So it was shot in Jodhpur. So we landed in Jodhpur and that day it rained. In Jodhpur. And so you had cloudy skies in Jodhpur. And when we land in Kerala, when it's supposed to be raining, and we were there in the middle of June, right? In the middle of June, it's raining in Kerala. It was bloody sunny and it was not that. After the shoot got over, before we were leaving, trying to get back, it started raining the next morning, but it didn't rain 2 days that we were trying to shoot there.
Best laid plans.
Who was the target audience that particular time you wanted to target? Consumer insights and why TV commercial as a medium you have chosen that?
If you want effective in terms of gaining top of mind awareness, digital in our world was very new then. In 2013, there was. It's not like there was no digital. It was still relatively okay. And the kind of, so it's not that we didn't do digital investment, we did, but they were like minuscule. And the effect of it on eventual numbers and all that never kind of made sense to go there. But at that point of time, television was the most important medium to run with.
And in terms of the strategies, the target group, the consumer insight, was it competition led? Like, was there some of that in the context when this was being thought of?
Not really. Like I said, so you have two products that you sell, right? These two almost kind of go at a 60-40 whatever ratio in terms of your sales numbers, right? So obviously Excel is one of the more expensive products. So it was targeted to individual homeowners, right? It's not really bought by housing societies and gated communities and all that, because they have their own, it's a different decision when you're buying paint in those scenarios, right? So this was targeted to tier 2 cities or even the tier 1 cities, but the individual homeowner versus residential buildings. So for example, you and me sort of living in gated societies or whatever. That time you also lived in Bombay. So in 2013, for example, we never thought about the exterior of the building.
Yeah. In fact, I used to always find it very funny whenever I used to roam around in Bombay, that Bombay got the worst looking buildings from outside. I think maybe because of the rain, people never ever paint the outside at all. I mean, all of Bombay is black and muddy on the outside. Versus the Delhi or versus the Bangalore, you'll always find a lot more probably care being done on the outside of a building.
It's not just, one is the rain, the other one is the societies are really badly formed sometimes, right? And it depends on how much money the society has and which builder built it and how he's kind of formed corpus for these kind of maintenances, right?
So, Chandan, tell us a little bit more about the consumer inciting process. So when you would have arrived from the brief to say that I need an ad for exterior paints, and it's a competitive market. There are two kind of weathers. So there is summer and then there is rains. And then you would have come on to, this is all that is possible. So is there something from the consumer inciting journey that you want to share with us on how did this, sort of creative come to life?
So we did a UNA, right? There was a UNA which clearly came and spelled out what is expected amongst these homeowners for their exteriors, right? And the lens that they go through of trying to protect their homes. Because again, this is not, so there was Suraksha, for example, on the mass end of things, right? But at the premium end of things, people really spend money in getting their premium products and all that. They usually have a 2 to 3 year cycle of painting their exteriors and at least painting their interiors in and around the same time. Right? Kerala, for example, goes ahead and paints their house almost every year.
And was there a worry of distinctivity? The fact that you'll have a lot of players in the market wanting to give a similar message. So how does Nerolac Excel specifically get the attribution?
So amazingly, right, Nerolac has this classic jingle which has been there for like donkey's years, right? I think it was first done in the 70s or late 70s, if I'm not mistaken, which is this Har Ghar Ki Raunak Badhani. So that was very distinctive to them, right? While Asian Paints is the market leader, they almost hold close to about 50% of the market in many ways, right? And more so, it comes from their strength in distribution than anything else, right? So apart from creating very memorable ads, they also have a very strong distribution presence as compared to any other paint brand, so to speak, right? The only other true national brand in that sense is Nerolac. So there are other brands like Berger, and there is also Dulux. Now in the market you have a slew of like Nippon paints, and there are Shalimar, and there's whatever. JSW has just launched one of their own paint brands, right? Which is now. I'm talking 9 years back, there were essentially 4, right? Of the 4 of them, they had their relative strengths and they operated in certain markets with their relative strengths, right? So in that sense, the true challenger in all this was always Nerolac.
So I think from a distinctivity standpoint, the use of celebrity would have been your main weapon. And I think there must have been a lot of sweat thought about Shah Rukh versus somebody else.
Shah Rukh was already signed on. Signed on when Nerolac embarked on this whole thing of healthy home paints. So this was one of the sessions where they went back to category codes of durability.
Okay. I think Shah Rukh has been used quite well. It's quite distinctive the way it comes on the ad.
Take us through behind the scenes, Chandan. What was your experience with the,
Must not have been very easy lugging around a 20-foot umbrella.
Actually, it's about 45 feet.
45 feet.
Yes. Hell of an umbrella to carry all around with you.
No, so there have been various gimmicks tried with it, right? Of trying to expand it in CG and all that, of shooting it with small umbrellas or all that. But and frankly, people have shot a lot in Kerala. People have shot a lot in Rajasthan. We wanted a different eye to look at it, right? So Ashish Khazanchi was my creative director then, who actually went on and was made a recommendation by the production house saying that why don't we look at somebody from abroad to do this. So we actually got this Spanish director called Eric Morales.
Oh, nice.
So Eric Morales, and he got his DOP from Spain as well, right? So it was a completely new set of eyes looking at India from a very different perspective, right? So what we see of Kerala or Rajasthan, which could have been very easily done by anybody else, but it's just that how you use the camera and how you use the people's reaction and how you go about it is completely different from what we regularly do.
Yeah.
That was one of the key things, like, which was working behind the scenes. And the most important thing was make the umbrella.
You know what I really like about the ad in some parts of it is, see, one is that the pride of the owner standing in front of the boat. You know, when he's standing with that whole potty and that whole thing behind. So that whole pride of, I got this. I got a solution here. I'm gonna be in charge. So that was something which I found really interesting. The other thing which I liked is when the umbrella went up and you had the passerbys looking, it made it happen, and so some of those subtle nuances, I think they really engage you with.
So they were not people who were made to act, if you know what I mean. So it was a genuine people in and around the shoot as we were doing it. Okay, and because it was captured, we decided to keep it. So it was not like people were made to exasperate or, oh, what happened, right?
What are you saying?
Wow.
So a lot of it is genuine reactions of people around. So strangely, we didn't actually do the song when we were writing the film. The song was done after the film while the edit got put together is when the song was a surprise factor that came.
And tell us more about the outcome. So did you do some kind of a track after it? Did you shift business? What are some of the outcome of the film?
Of course, we saw a couple of basic points jumps in the top of mind awareness. I believe the sales also went up by a couple of percentage points. So,
wow, it was hilarious. The ad and the conversation as well. Saurabh, let us know about the key takeaways and learnings from this conversation.
Devleena, what I liked about this conversation is that the first learning it gives us is that there are always two kinds of communication. There is a purpose-led communication, which is more brand purpose and equity. And then there is like performance marketing. There are harder hitting communication, which have a job to be done, right?
Right.
So understanding these two differences is very critical, and this is the case of the latter. This is a kind of communication which is a very clear job and a business to be done. Yeah. The second piece of learning for me is the fact that when you want to drive action, you got to ensure that the consumer enjoys the creative, and which is where humor plays a great role, right? So while there's got a clear job to be done, but the role of humor in delivering impact is very good. Yeah. The third piece for me is creativity. In creativity, often it is about using a creative magnifier. So here the creative magnifier of a larger nameplate with all your degrees there. The march past that the postmen were doing were beautiful in terms of, in a very short length of time, being able to clearly give what is the message that we're trying to give. Yeah. So in summary, this is a kind of a communication which is the business driving, more like performance marketing. It's got a clear job to be done. Second, use of humor to deliver action from the consumer to derive enjoyment and receptivity to message is something we see. And the third part is the use of creative multipliers or magnifiers like a larger nameplate or the postman doing march past. I think this is something that in this episode we saw really well. Yeah. So very impactful, very useful tips for marketeers to take out of this.
Super. Amazing takeaways and key learnings as crisp as the ad campaign itself. So thank you for sharing those takeaways and learnings with us, Saurabh. And we enjoy it again every week on week. We are just enjoying the kind of contribution which you are putting it here, Saurabh. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much to you, me, the team, our viewers, and all of us. I think we're all having a party together.
For sure. Yeah. And thanks all our viewers for patiently viewing us and appreciating us. Thank you so much.